Emergency alert. Something is mimicking human voices in the woods. The first sign that the night was bleeding into wrongness wasn't loud. It was the opposite. It was a digital clock on the microwave flashing 12 o'clock. Over and over, a stuttering heartbeat in the kitchen's gloom. I remember thinking the power must have flickered, but nothing else was reset. Not the oven, not the smart speaker sitting stubbornly silent on the counter. Then the TV in the living room, which had been off, snapped on by itself. Not to a channel, just static, that gray and black snowstorm that used to mean a dead signal but now just felt archaic and loud, way too loud, a roaring hiss that filled the house. I fumbled for the remote, thumb jamming the power button. It wouldn't turn off. I yanked the plug from the wall. The sudden silence almost as deafening. Sarah called from upstairs, her voice tight. "Mark, what was that?" "Just the TV." I called back, trying to keep the tremor out of my own voice. Acting up. But it wasn't just acting up. It felt like the house itself had hiccuped, a machine skipping a gear. I went to the window, peering out into the suburban twilight, settling over Oakhaven. Streetlights hummed. Sprinklers hissed on automatic timers across perfectly manicured lawns. Everything looked normal. Too normal. Like a stage set waiting for the actors to arrive. That's when the real alert started. Not on the TV, but seemingly from everywhere at once. The dead smart speaker crackled to life. The radio in my workshop downstairs blared without being touched. Even my phone, lying screen down on the coffee table, vibrated and emitted a tinny, distorted version of the emergency alert system tone. It wasn't the usual screech, though. It was fractured, layered. Underneath the jarring electronic pulse, I could almost hear voices, whispers, faint, familiar, like snippets of conversations I couldn't quite grasp. And then a single, chillingly clear sentence cut through the static, seemingly synthesized but with strange, almost pleading quality. Emergency alert. Something is mimicking human voices in the woods. Stay inside. Lock your doors. Do not trust. It cut off abruptly, replaced by that roaring static again before everything fell utterly silent. Dead silent. The streetlights outside flickered once, twice, then went out, plunging the neighborhood into a darkness deeper than any moonless night. My phone screen was black. Dead. No signal bars, no Wi-Fi icon, nothing. Landline? Dial tone was a flat, dead hum. Oakhaven was adrift, cut off from the world in the space of 5 minutes. Panic, cold and sharp, pricked at the base of my skull. "Mark." Sarah was standing at the bottom of the stairs, her face pale in the faint emergency light strip I'd installed along the baseboard. What the hell is going on? I wished I knew. Power grid failure, maybe? Solar flare. The words felt hollow even as I said them. This wasn't a blackout. This was something else. The silence outside wasn't peaceful. It was predatory, holding its breath. And then we heard it, faintly, from the direction of Black Creek woods that bordered our backyard. A voice. It sounded like Mrs. Gable from next door, calling for her cat. "Patches? Here, kitty kitty." But the sound was wrong. It had a strange resonance, like it was coming from the bottom of a well, and it was slightly too rhythmic, too perfect. Sarah gripped my arm. That's not right. She found Patches this afternoon. He was dead, hit by a car. A cold wave washed over me. Goosebumps erupted on my arms. We stood frozen, listening. The calling continued for a minute, then stopped, replaced by something else. A child crying. It sounded impossibly like Timmy Miller from down the street, the boy who vanished last spring. A cold case. Just the sound of him sobbing, drifting through the unnatural quiet. "Okay," I whispered, pulling Sarah away from the door. "Locks. Now, check all the windows." We moved through the house, the simple act of sliding bolts and clicking locks feeling terrifyingly inadequate. Every creak of the floorboards sounded like an intrusion. Every shadow seemed too deep, too sharp. From the kitchen window, which overlooked our backyard and the woods beyond, I saw movement, or thought I did. A flicker at the edge of the dense tree line. Too tall to be a deer, too thin. It vanished as soon as I focused on it. Was it my eyes playing tricks in the dark? Or was the thing mimicking voices out there, watching us? An hour passed. 2. The only sounds were our own ragged breaths and the frantic pounding of my heart against my ribs. We sat huddled on the living room sofa, a heavy maglite flashlight, my only reliable light source now, resting between us, its beam cutting a shaky cone through the oppressive darkness. We didn't talk much. What was there to say? Every theory felt insane. Aliens? Government experiment gone wrong? Some kind of mass hysteria? Nothing fit the chilling reality of those mimicked voices, the sudden, total isolation. If only I hadn't dismissed the flickering clock. If only I'd charged the satellite phone I kept in the emergency kit, instead of letting it gather dust. Small choices. Ripples leading to this maroon moment. Then, a knock at the front door. Not frantic, not demanding. Just 3 solid, evenly spaced raps. Knock, knock, knock. Sarah jumped, stifling a cry. I held my breath, listening. Silence. Then a voice. My father's voice. Clear as day, though he'd been dead for 5 years. Mark? Son? Are you okay in there? I saw the lights go out. Just wanted to check on you. It sounded exactly like him. The low timbre, the slight weariness he always carried. But it was too perfect, too steady. And he was dead. My blood ran cold. I remembered a stupid local legend. Something kids whispered during sleepovers about the woods. 3 knocks means it isn't asking. Or something like that. Never paid it any mind. Until now. Don't answer. I breathed, my voice raspy. Mark, please. The voice outside pleaded, still perfectly dad. It's cold out here. Just let me in. Sarah was shaking, tears silently tracking down her face. Make it stop, Mark. Please make it stop. I couldn't. We just sat there rigid, listening to the perfect ghost of my father begging on the doorstep. After what felt like an eternity, the voice sighed, a sound so full of disappointment it made my stomach churn, and then silence fell again. But the presence didn't feel gone. It felt like it was waiting, lingering just beyond a thin barrier of wood and glass. We needed information. We couldn't just sit here. My neighbor Henderson lived alone 2 houses down, an old ham radio enthusiast. Maybe his gear worked when nothing else did. Maybe he knew something. But then I remembered seeing his porch light earlier, before the main blackout. It had flickered. On, off, on, off, on, off. 3 times. Exactly 3 times. Another half-forgotten snippet of local lore surfaced. Colder this time. When the lights blink out thrice, don't look the owner in the eyes. Superstitious nonsense. Except the 3 knocks. The mimic voice. Coincidence? My gut screamed no. Stay here, I told Sarah, grabbing the maglite and my heaviest wrench from the toolbox near the back door. Lock this behind me. Don't open it for anyone. Not even me, unless I give a signal. We agreed on a specific pattern of knocks. 2 quick, 1 slow. 2 quick. Anything else, and she stayed hidden. Mark, no. Don't go out there. Her voice was sharp with fear. Henderson might know something. His radio. It's not worth it. What if that thing is still out there? I'll be careful. I'll stay out of sight. Liar. I was terrified, but the thought of sitting here, waiting for whatever was outside to find a way in, was worse. Slipping out the back door into the pitch-black yard felt like diving into icy water. The air was unnaturally still and cold for a summer night. No crickets. No distant traffic hum. Just silence pressing in, and the smell. Faint, but growing stronger as I moved away from the house. Ozone like right before a lightning strike, but mixed with something else. Something damp and vaguely metallic like old blood. I crept along the fence line, keeping to the shadows cast by shrubs and the neighbor's shed. Every rustle of leaves underfoot sounded like a gunshot. My beam swept nervously across the lawns, catching the glint of dew on the grass. Henderson's house was dark, like ours. No flickering porch light now. Just a black rectangle against a slightly less black sky. I reached his side gate, unlatched it slowly. It groaned loudly in the silence. I froze, listening. Nothing, just a heavy thud of my own pulse in my ears. I slipped into his backyard. The back door was slightly ajar. That wasn't like Henderson. He was meticulous about security. Alarm bells screamed in my head. The smell was stronger here. Ozone and rot. I pushed the door open wider, inch by inch, shining the maglite beam inside. The kitchen was tidy. Dishes clean in the rack. Nothing seemed out of place. Henderson? I whispered, my voice barely audible. No answer. I stepped inside. The wrench held high. The silence in this house felt different. Thicker. Stagnant. I moved towards the living room, where Henderson kept his radio set up. The beam landed on his armchair. He was sitting there, facing away from me, towards the dark radio equipment on the desk. Henderson? I said, a little louder. He didn't move. I circled around the chair slowly, my heart hammering against my ribs. The flashlight beam climbed his slumped form. His clothes looked damp. Dark stains patched his flannel shirt. Then the beam hit his face, or what was left of it. His eyes were wide open, staring blankly at the dead radio. But his face, it was wrong. Stretched, like putty pulled taut over the skull. His mouth hung open in a silent O, and his skin had a pale, almost translucent quality. He wasn't breathing. He looked like a grotesque mannequin replica of the man I knew. I stumbled back, gagging, the wrench falling from my numb fingers and clattering on the hardwood floor. The sound echoed horribly. And then Henderson moved. His head didn't turn. It snapped towards the sound, a sickening crack echoing in the room. His wide, blank eyes fixed on me. He pushed himself up from the chair, movements jerky, unnatural, like a puppet whose strings were tangled. He wasn't Henderson anymore. The porch light, 3 flickers. Don't look the owner in the eyes. Too late. He started towards me, stumbling, limbs moving at odd angles. And he opened his mouth, not to speak, but a sound came out, a low, guttural clicking, mixed with that faint, static-laced whisper I'd heard from the EAS alert. It wasn't human. I scrambled backwards, grabbing the wrench, turned and fled, bursting out the back door, not bothering with stealth, just running, pure animal terror propelling me across the lawn, back towards my own fence. I vaulted it clumsily, scraping my hands, and pounded on my back door with the agreed-upon signal. Too quick, one slow, too quick. The door flew open. Sarah pulled me inside, slamming and locking behind me. I collapsed against the door, gasping for breath. The image of Henderson's stretched face burned into my retinas. What happened? Mark, what did you see? I couldn't speak for a moment, just shook my head, trying to push the horror down. Henderson, he's changed. I finally managed. Something's wrong with him. It's not just the voices. People are changing. Sarah's face crumpled. Oh, God, what do we do? We stayed away from the windows after that, huddled in the center of the living room. The maglite beam our only anchor in the encroaching dread. The sound from outside seemed to multiply. More voices. Some crying. Some laughing. A high-pitched, unnatural giggle that scraped against my nerves. Some called names. Our names. Mark. Sarah let us in. It was a chorus of familiar voices. Friends. Neighbors. Even Sarah's sister who lived 2 states away. All perfectly mimicked. All utterly wrong. We found another clue, maybe half an hour later. Something slid on the front door. A piece of paper, folded clumsily. My first instinct was terror. It was right there, but curiosity, desperation won out. I crawled toward the door, snatched the paper, and scurried back to Sarah. We unfolded it with trembling hands. Scrawled in shaky handwriting, likely by flashlight, were a few desperate lines. Don't listen if it sounds perfect. The real echo is flawed. They learn the sounds, but not the soul. Silence is bad, too. Listen for the gaps. They can't mimic true silence. 3 knocks bad. 3 lights bad. Don't look in mirrors if the power flickers. Stay away from reflections. Reflections? Why reflections? The note wasn't signed. Another victim's final warning? Or bait? They learn the sounds but not the soul, Sarah whispered, reading the line aloud. The voices. Dad's voice had sounded right, but it felt empty. The perfect mimicry was the flaw. The lack of human imperfection, the slight waver, the breath caught, the emotion that cracks a syllable. Those were missing. It was terrifyingly precise and precisely wrong. The rule about silence was stranger. How could silence be bad? How do you listen for gaps in silence? Unless the silence itself was part of the mimicry, a manufactured absence of sound? The thought made my skin crawl. What if the oppressive quiet outside wasn't natural? What if it was projecting silence, too? The house groaned. A scraping sound came from upstairs, like fingernails dragging slowly across drywall. We both froze, looking up at the ceiling. It was inside, or something was. The attic crawl space. I mouthed, grabbing the mag light. Sarah shook her head frantically, eyes wide with terror. But where else could we go? The scraping was getting louder, closer to the access panel in the hallway ceiling. Staying here meant waiting for it to drop down. We had to move. Now, we crept toward the back of the house, towards the basement stairs. If something was in the attic, maybe the basement offered temporary safety. Heavy door, concrete walls. As we reached the basement door, we heard it, a soft tapping, coming from a hall mirror hanging opposite the bathroom. Tap, tap, tap. We stopped, staring at the mirror's dark surface. The power hadn't flickered, but the warning from the note screamed in my head. Don't look in mirrors if the power flickers. Stay away from reflections. Then a voice, Sarah's voice, whispering from the mirror's surface. Mark, I'm scared. It sounded distant, ethereal, but it was her voice. Sarah, standing beside me, let out a choked gasp. Her reflection in the mirror wasn't looking at us. It was looking slightly upwards, a faint, unsettling smile playing on its lips. And its mouth wasn't moving, even as the whisper echoed from the glass. Don't answer, I hissed, pulling Sarah toward the basement door. Fumbling with the knob, the whisper from the mirror changed, becoming colder, sharper. Don't leave me, Mark. We stumbled down the basement stairs, pulling the heavy door shut, sliding the thick bolt across. The air down here was cool and damp, smelling of earth and laundry detergent. It felt marginally safer. Marginally. We huddled at the bottom of the stairs, listening. Silence from the other side of the door. For now. But the basement wasn't empty. My workshop was down here. Tools lined the pegboard walls. And in the corner, covered by a dusty tarp, was my old motorcycle. Maybe there was a way out after all. The roads might be blocked, but the woods, could we cut through? Reach Highway 9? It was a long shot, a desperate gamble. But it was better than waiting here to be found. The bike, I whispered to Sarah. It's got gas, if we can get through the woods. Her eyes searched mine in the dim light spilling from the maglite resting on the steps. Hope warred with fear. The woods? Mark, the voices. We stay quiet. We move fast. It's our only chance. It took us maybe 15 minutes to get the bike ready. Check the fuel, the tires. The battery was dead, of course, but it was a kickstart model. Old reliable. The noise would be a risk, a huge risk, but speed was our only ally now. Getting it out was a problem. The basement had cellar doors leading to the backyard, but they were heavy, rusty, and loud. We had to try, working together. Straining in the near darkness, we managed to heave the angled doors open. The hinges screamed in protest. We froze, listening. The chorus of mimic voices outside seemed to swell momentarily. Closer now. A chilling medley of neighbors and strangers, calling, crying, laughing. We wrestled the bike up the concrete steps and out onto the dew-soaked grass. The moonless sky offered no comfort, only impenetrable darkness beyond the weak flashlight beam. The edge of the woods loomed like a black wall, swallowing the faint starlight. Ready? I whispered, straddling the bike. Sarah climbed on behind me, her arms wrapped tightly around my waist, her face pressed against my back. I took a deep breath, kicked down hard on the starter. Once, twice. On the third kick, the engine roared to life. shattering the unnatural silence. The sound was obscene in the stillness, a beacon announcing our position to whatever lurked in the dark. The voices from the woods abruptly stopped, replaced by a different sound, a rustling, widespread, coming from the trees, like something immense drawing breath, or legion stirring. "Go!" Sarah screamed. I twisted the throttle, the bike fishtailing on the wet grass before finding purchase. We shot across the lawn, heading straight for the narrow deer trail that led into Black Creek woods. The headlight cut a tunnel through the darkness, branches whipping past us. The air grew colder, the smell of ozone and rot intensifying. Behind us, I heard it. Movement, fast movement. Something keeping pace just inside the tree line, paralleling our path. I didn't dare look. The trail twisted, roots and rocks threatening to spill us. Sarah held on tighter, burying her face against me. And then the voices started again, but different this time. Closer. Inside my head? No, all around us, seemingly coming from the trees themselves. They weren't just mimicking anymore. They were distorting. Sarah's sister's voice, warped, slowed down, guttural. My dead father's voice, sped up into a high-pitched shriek. Timmy Miller's crying, morphing into that horrible, scraping giggle. It was a cacophony designed to break the mind. We burst out of the thicket onto a wider logging path. For a second, I thought we might have a clearer run. Then I saw it, standing in the middle of the path, illuminated by the headlight. It was tall, impossibly thin, limbs bent at angles that defied anatomy. Its silhouette was stark against the dark trees. It had no discernible features, just a shifting, vaguely humanoid shape that seemed to absorb the light. But the worst part? It was making a sound. A soft, gentle humming. In Sarah's voice. Her favorite lullaby. The one her mother used to sing. I swerved violently, heading off the path, back into the dense undergrowth. Branches tore at us, smacking my helmet visor. The bike bucked, threatening to throw us. Behind us, the humming stopped, replaced by a sound like tearing fabric and heavy, rapid footfalls crashing through the woods. It was chasing us, faster than I thought possible. "Mark!" Sarah screamed, her voice tight with terror. I risked a glance back. 2 pinpricks of faint, pale light glowed through the trees, gaining on us. Eyes? Maybe. Or something else. We hit a patch of mud. The back was sliding out. I fought for control, but we were going down. The bike slammed onto its side, engine sputtering out. Sarah cried out as we hit the ground, tangled together. The mag light, which I tucked into my jacket, flew off into the bushes. We were plunged into near total darkness, the only light those 2 approaching pinpricks. Scrabbling, panicked, I tried to pull Sarah up. Her leg was trapped on the bike. "I can't, it's stuck," she sobbed, tugging frantically. The crashing sounds were closer now, maybe 50 yards away. The pale lights bobbed erratically, and the voices returned. Not a cacophony this time, just one voice. Mine. "It's okay, Sarah." My own voice whispered from the darkness ahead. Calm, reassuring, perfectly mimicked. "I'm right here. Come towards the light." "Mark." Sarah whimpered, looking past me towards the sound, her eyes wide. "No. Sarah, don't listen. It's not me." I shouted, trying to lift the heavy bike off her leg. It wouldn't budge. The thing was closer. 30 yards. I could hear its breathing now, a wet, ragged sound, like water draining down a block pipe. The pale lights resolved into indistinct shapes. It was almost upon us. There was no time. Lift the bike? We'd both be caught. Run? Leave her? The choice slammed into me with physical force. Leave Sarah? The thought was a physical agony, tearing through me. Images flashed. Our wedding day, laughing over dinner last week, her face pale and trusting in the basement light just minutes ago. But the thing was almost here. That horrible, stretched face of Henderson flashed in my mind. What would happen to her? Would she become like that? A puppet pulled by unseen strings, her voice added to the monstrous choir? Maybe leaving wasn't the worst thing I could do. Maybe letting it take her was worse than... I yanked the heavy wrench from my belt loop. Sarah looked at me, her eyes reflecting the terrifying pale light of the approaching entity. Understanding dawned in her expression, followed by a wave of sheer animal terror. "Mark, no, please." The thing was 10 yards away. I could smell the rot, feel the unnatural cold radiating from it. My voice, my perfectly mimicked voice, whispered again, closer now. "It's all right, Sarah. Just relax." I couldn't let it take her. I couldn't let her become one of them. With a strangled sob, I raised a wrench. The sound echoed in the woods, wet and final. Then I ran. I didn't look back. Didn't listen for sound behind me. The ragged breathing, the possible scream cut short, or the entity's reaction. I just ran, fueled by adrenaline and a grief so profound it felt like my soul was tearing apart. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs gave out, collapsing at the edge of the woods as the first hints of gray dawn stained the eastern sky. Silence. True silence this time, or just another trick. I lay there for a long time, the sounds of the night replaying in my head, Sarah's last look, the weight of the wrench. Eventually, I stumbled to my feet. My clothes were torn. I was covered in mud and scratches, but I was alive. Alone, I made my way toward the highway, avoiding the main road into Oakhaven, cutting through fields. In the distance, I saw flashing lights, red and blue. Hope surged, painful and unwelcome. A police car? National Guard? Rescue? I ran towards it, waving my arms, shouting. As I got closer, the hope curdled. It was a single state trooper car, parked haphazardly on the shoulder, doors open, lights flashing erratically. No one inside. The radio crackled, emitting that same fractured AS tone from the night before. Then the voice. Clearer now. Synthesized, official. Emergency alert. Phenomenon designated echo. Containment protocol active. Do not respond to familiar voices. Do not trust reflections. Do not attempt communication with compromised individuals. Maintain auditory discipline. Silence is... The message cut off mid-sentence, replaced by static. Then a new sound, a soft whisper, seemingly coming from the radio speaker itself. It was my voice. Perfectly, chillingly mine. "It's okay now, Mark," it whispered, soothingly. "You're safe. We're all safe now." I stared at the radio, paralyzed by a cold dread that went deeper than anything I'd felt during the night. I glanced at the trooper car's side mirror. My reflection stared back. Haggard, tear streak broken. For a split second, just a fraction of a second, my reflection seemed to smile, a slow, knowing curl to lips that didn't match the horror on my own face. I blinked, and it was gone. Just my own miserable reflection again. Was it a trick of the light? Exhaustion? Or was a warning from the note true? Stay away from reflections. Had I looked too long? A coldness spread through my chest, an alien feeling. The story I'm telling you now, the one I've been piecing together in my head, suddenly feels distant, like remembering a dream. Did I really escape? Or did something follow me out of the woods? Something hiding behind my own eyes, whispering in my own voice. The silence out here feels wrong, too. Too complete. Like I'm listening for the gaps, but I can no longer tell the difference. Thanks for watching. If this story chilled you to the bone, please hit that like button and subscribe for more tales from the dark. Your support helps us bring more nightmares to life.